Today I'm going to show you how to sew this adorable memory sea turtle plush in under 11 minutes. This is a super beginner friendly pattern that comes in two sizes. You have the big Honu and the baby Honu, which is sea turtle in Hawaiian. You can make yours using just 1/3 yard of fabric or transform a loved one's favorite shirt into a keepsake you'll treasure forever. If you'd like the printable PDF pattern, just comment Aloha below and I'll send you the link. You can print it at home, your local library, or an office supply store if you don't have a printer. In that PDF, I also made some handmade with love cards if you are gifting, donating, or selling these that you can use. If you are new here, I'm Heather. I'm a nurse, mama of four, and the designer behind Aloha Sewing Company, where I teach you to sew the easy way using my printable patterns. This tutorial is part of my 60 Patterns to Sew It Forward project series, in honor of my dad who took his last breath just 2 days after his 60th birthday. So I'm designing 60 sewing patterns, we are donating 60 of them, and we are trying to spread the kindness by sewing it forward. So join me on my journey. And please like this video and subscribe to help get this video out to more people. So let's get started. The link below in the description box will bring you to the PDF sewing pattern. It is professionally designed. You can also comment Aloha and I will send you the link. Then you are going to print those sewing pattern pieces out. Then you're going to assemble them and cut them out. Not all of them require assembly, but I'll show you if they do. Trace the pattern piece onto your fabric, and then you are ready to cut the fabric out and start sewing. Here's everything that you will need. You can use 1/3 yard of fabric of any kind that you choose. Cotton works best. You can also use someone's clothing and cut the fabric out of that. Next, you will need some stuffing material such as Poly-Fil, stuffing. If you have an old pillow you aren't using, you can use that, or some scrap fabric cut into small pieces. And lastly, you're going to need the printable sewing pattern, and I will show you exactly what to do for the two different sizes. I'm going to make the big one, the big Honu today, so I will have to assemble two of the pages together by just overlapping them just like this, and then we tape or glue that together. Now on A1, the paper you see here on the left side, I did trim the dashed cutting line across the bottom so that I could overlap that. Then we are ready to just cut all of the shapes out. Take a cookie break apparently, because my sweet girl just brought me one. And then we were going to place our pattern pieces onto our fabric. This is a fabric I used to make a shirt out of, and so I am making this now into a sea turtle. So trace all around all of the pattern pieces onto the top piece of your fabric, and your fabric should still be folded in half, just like you would buy it off the bolts. So you're only tracing each of these pattern pieces one time. You can see here I have the wrong sides of the fabric together. Not a great choice in fabrics for this project. I'm sorry for that, but I'll do my best to explain. So here is the head piece and all the shell pieces cut out, 2 heads, 2 shells, and then we need 4 of each of the flippers. So we have our front flippers and our rear flippers, and we have to cut 2 mirrored. So these 2 pieces are wrong sides together, and these 2 pieces are also wrong sides together. And I did the same thing for the other one. Just stack all 4 pieces of fabric on top of each other and cut them out all at once. Then you want to get all of your flippers and place the fabric pieces with the pretty sides of the fabric together. So the wrong side of the fabric should be facing you. These are the pretty sides of the fabric. I know you can't tell that on these. Then we are going to sew all the way around these, leaving the top part of our flippers open. Do not sew that area. You do the exact same thing for the front flippers. And then for the head, you just put the 2 fabric pieces, pretty sides together. And then we are going to bring all of this over to our sewing machine and sew using a 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter seam allowance. And remember, the pretty fabrics of your side should be together, and because you cut them the way we showed you, you cut them mirrored. So you have a left flipper and a right flipper for both the front of the turtle and the back. We are not going to sew those whole openings closed. So here is the rear flipper. We're just going to sew all the way around using a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And I like to batch sew, so I am going to sew all of these without cutting my stitches and starting anew. I just do it all at the same time. When you are sewing around these curves, and any kind of corners, make sure you're slowly sewing. And if you are making the smaller one, it can be tricky to go around curves. Just sew it slowly and adjust the fabric as you need to. Now these are the front flippers. We're going to sew all the way around these just the same way using the 1 centimeter 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. If you have a few more minutes, I'd love for you to stay until the end. This video is less than 11 minutes long, and watching this really helps this platform push this video out to more people. And every time you comment, you like, or subscribe, it does the same thing, and it really helps me out so much. So now let's get the head of our sea turtle, and we are going to place the fabric with the pretty sides together, and we're going to sew all the way around, except we're not going to sew that neck area closed. So let's flip the head upside down and start sewing there. So with the help of my little ones and my cousin, we are going to sew 60 of these, the mini size and the full size, to donate somewhere. Where should we donate these to? So if you have pinking shears, this is what they are. Anytime you sew around curves, you want to go and clip right up until the stitch line. You do this so that when we flip it right side out, those curves lay nice and flat and won't pucker. If you don't have pinking shears, you just cut little slits around your curves, just like I'm doing here, but I'm going to go ahead and cut with my pinking shears all the way around to trim down my seam allowance, and I did that with all of my pieces that I sewed together. So now we're going to go to each one of them and flip them right side out through the whole opening that we left on each of them. I like to go in with a chopstick and press out all of my seams and smoothen out my curves. And I also like to keep this laid out just like the sea turtle looks. That way I don't get any of the pieces mixed up when I'm sewing. You can use the sewing pattern as a guide to where they should go. You see this rear flipper matches the direction of the other rear flipper. Now, if you want to add some stuffing material to the head and the flippers, you go ahead and do that part now. Don't overstuff it though. I'm not going to do that. We're just making those flat. So get your shell pattern piece and you will notice all of these markings. You're going to place the pattern piece right on top of one of your fabric pieces, and then you're going to clip that together so it stays in place, and go and cut little slits right into your pattern and your fabric. These are guide marks to where to place all of your pieces, so that way you don't have to do any measuring. So what we're going to do is remove that pattern piece, and you can see I made slits about 1/8 and 1/4 of an inch or so, just big enough for me to see them. You're not going to see this on your finished sewn project, so don't worry about it. Now, these two little guides for the head, I'm going to get the head, I'm going to turn it so that the front pretty sides of the fabric are together. I know it makes it difficult with this fabric, but the pretty sides of the fabric should be together. Then I'm going to line up all of my other flippers the same way, making sure what I want seen on the front of the the front of the sea turtle is what is facing down. The back of the sea turtle flippers should be facing you. You also want to move those flippers just like I did here so that you don't sew it when we're sewing the seam allowance later. I will use a quilting clip to hold those in place in just a few minutes. Now, this next step is completely optional. You can use your sewing machine and go do a basting stitch around each of these pieces we just clipped together. It just holds them in place, and a basting stitch just basically means you're going to sew it right close to the edge, about 1/8 of an inch away. So that way it holds all these pieces together and won't shift around. I don't normally do this, but it is recommended so that they don't move around in places if you're not used to sewing it. So now we are going to get the other shell fabric piece and place them with the right sides together. The pretty sides of your fabric should be kissing, just like here. Now, this area I am showing you, we are not going to sew that area closed. You want to make sure you sew on top of all of your flippers, and only on the side here leave a small opening after you've sewn over the flippers. I'm going to put a few extra clips in place, so I remember to do that. And then I'm going to sew all the way around using a 3/8 of an inch or 1 centimeter seam allowance, leaving this little area open. That area is where we will flip this right side out when we're done sewing. So I start right before one of my flippers and start sewing over it all the way around. When you get to the corner, leave your needle in the fabric, lift your presser foot, and rotate your fabric around. Now those basting stitches I told you that I made a minute ago to hold these pieces in place, those are not going to show on the finished project. I went ahead and clipped all of my seam allowance with my pinking shears. You can go around any curves and corners with just a regular pair of scissors though. And then we're going through the whole opening and flipping this right side out. Go in with my chopstick here. You can use anything you have on hand and smoothen out the seams, poke out the corner, and press this flat with your iron. Now we are ready to fill it. You can use Poly-Fil, polyfiber filling, any kind of plush filling. If you have an old pillow, open that up and use the filling from that. Use anything you have on hand. Now we go to the whole opening at the bottom and flip that fabric inwards about 3/8 of an inch so that it follows the natural curve of the outside. Pin or clip that in place, and you have two options. We can edge stitch, top stitch this about 1/8 of an inch away from the opening using your machine, just pushing the stuffing out of the way, or you can use a blind ladder stitch, and that's just hand stitching it closed. If you don't know how to do that, I will add that information into the PDF below. Just comment Aloha and I will send you the link to all of this. Don't worry about remembering anything in this video. All of it is again going to be inside of that PDF document with the sewing pattern as well. I just love how these Honu sea turtles turn out every single time and how quick and easy it is to sew them. And I've also included 4 different types of printable care cards to make gifting or donating your finished sea turtle even more special. I like to package mine in simple, clear cellophane bags, or you can use tissue paper or package them up any way you'd like. But here's some inspiration. I just used some twine and attached the card. You don't have to do that. You can just use the card as they are, but I think it is absolutely adorable. So now I'd love to hear from you. Tell me in the comments who you would sew this Honu for. And if you're joining me for the 60 Patterns to Sew It Forward series, comment Aloha so I know you are sewing along. Thanks so much for spending a little time sewing with me today. Click on the screen to subscribe so you can follow along with all 60 patterns in this series. And you can also click one of the videos here on your screen and we can make something else together. And before you go, Mahalo.